I served in North Korea's Special Forces for 14 years. My unit was known as the Lightning Brigade, an elite force trained to strike deep behind enemy lines. Our mission was clear. When war came, we would be the first to attack. Mountain infiltration, underwater operations, night raids. I trained until my body nearly broke. I pledged my life to the regime, and I meant it. That pledge was my reason for living. Then, on a winter night in 2003, I turned my back on everything. I crossed the frozen Tumen River into China. I left behind the country I had sworn to die for. Was I a traitor? No, my country betrayed me first. After 14 years of service, all I received was starvation and humiliation. Today, I want to share my story. The story of how a Special Forces soldier who was ready to die for his country became a man who had to escape it.
Next stop is unification. As you prepare to depart, please make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Your support gives a voice to those who have escaped North Korea. Thank you for traveling with us today.
I was born in 1,969 inches, a small village in Yongbyon County, North Pyongan Province. My father was a factory worker. My mother worked on a collective farm. I was the second of 3 sons. From an early age, I was a little different from other kids. I was left-handed. Back then, being left-handed was rare in North Korea. Teachers scolded me, telling me to write with my right hand, but I stubbornly kept using my left, and with that left hand, I loved to draw. I would sketch mountains, rivers, birds in the sky, anything I saw. While other kids played ball, I often sat alone with my pencil. I vaguely dreamed of becoming an artist someday, but I never said it out loud. In North Korea, for the son of a worker to dream of being an artist was absurd. Besides drawing, I was good at sports. I was always at the front when we ran. I rarely lost at wrestling. Teachers called me a boy with clear goals, but I didn't really know what those goals were. I just wanted to become someone respected, someone impressive. A simple, teenage wish. That wish found direction when I was 15. One day, our school showed a film, a war movie about special forces. On screen, soldiers scaled cliffs, infiltrated enemy territory, and completed heroic missions. My heart raced. That's it. That's who I want to be. Not just any soldier, an elite warrior who strikes fear into the enemy's heart, a hero who gives his life for his country. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop replaying those scenes in my head. In North Korea, if you don't serve in the military after high school, you're not considered a real man. A man who hasn't served isn't a man at all. That's what people said openly. Military service was inevitable, but if I had to serve anyway, I wanted to be in the best unit possible. Special Forces. Those 2 words were carved into my heart. I told my father, I want to join the Special Forces. I want to be a warrior who strikes at the enemy's heart. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. A man should have that kind of spirit. That one sentence meant everything to me. From that day, I started training. I ran every morning. Push-ups, sit-ups, I never skipped a day. I heard you needed excellent physical scores to get into Special Forces. My drawing hand developed calluses from a different kind of work. I spent more time lifting weights than holding pencils, but I didn't mind. For a bigger dream, I could let go of a smaller one. Looking back now, I knew nothing. In the spring of 1986, at 17, I finally enlisted. I was assigned to the Lightning Brigade, a Special Forces unit based deep in the mountains of North Pyongan Province. That wasn't its official name, but that's what we called it among ourselves. Lightning fast and powerful, striking the enemy without warning. When I arrived at the training camp, my heart was about to burst. Finally, I'm becoming a Special Forces soldier, an elite warrior of my country. The thought alone made my blood boil. But reality was nothing like the movies. Hell started on day 1. You bastards! Why are you so slow? The trainer's screams filled the camp. We woke at 5 in the morning and trained until 11 at night. Running, crawling, obstacle courses, combat drills. Endless, relentless. Meals were corn, rice, and soybean paste soup. That was it. The portions were small. Many nights I couldn't sleep from hunger. But training continued regardless. I gritted my teeth. It was hard, but I couldn't give up. If I survive this, I become a real Special Forces soldier. If I fall here, it's over. I told myself that every day and pushed through. About a month later, basic training ended, and I was assigned to my unit. I was placed in communications. My job was to operate radios, decode messages, and connect command with frontline units. Why communications? Because I could write well and draw. Decoding required precise hand movements. Radio logs needed clear handwriting. My left-handed talent found an unexpected use. At first, I was disappointed. I had dreamed of charging through mountains and striking enemy positions, not sitting with a radio. But soon, my thinking changed. Communications was the unit's lifeline. Without communications, operations collapse. If commanders can't relay orders, even the strongest unit is useless. I was told that communications officers are the eyes and ears of the battlefield. That resonated with me. I might not be the one leading charges, but without me, the unit couldn't function. That pride drove me to excel at my duties. In my first year, I was a model soldier. I never fell behind in training. I picked up communication skills quickly. I was the fastest decoder in my squad. My platoon leader called me in to praise me. "Comrade Park Sung-ho, you have a promising future ahead." I could have floated away on those words. My loyalty was also exceptional. Every morning, when we saluted the portrait of the great leader Kim Il-sung, I meant it with all my heart. I believed I was born thanks to his grace, and I would repay that grace with my life. Foolish, you say? Perhaps. But I wasn't alone. Everyone who grew up in North Korea with a North Korean education was the same. We didn't know any other world existed. We had nothing to compare our lives to. We thought our world was everything. Especially young men like me who made it into Special Forces, our loyalty ran even deeper. We believed we were our nation's elite. We were ready to throw away our lives on command. But there was something strange. Looking at my fellow soldiers, they all came from backgrounds like mine. Sons of workers, farmers, miners, the so-called basic masses. Not a single son of a high official or party elite. At first, I didn't think much of it. Special Forces requires physical strength, so naturally there would be more sons of laborers who grew up using their bodies. Made sense. But over time, I heard strange rumors. Guys like us? We're the first to die when war comes. You know what Special Forces really is? A dumping ground for people they don't mind losing. Kids with good songbun go to rear units. Only third-class citizens like us end up here. Songbun. In North Korea, people are divided into 3 classes based on family background. First class is the core class, revolutionary families and high party officials. Second class is the wavering class, ordinary citizens. Third class is the hostile class, descendants of landlords, capitalists, defectors to the south, enemies of the state. And Special Forces, supposedly, only took second and third class citizens. At first, I didn't believe it. No, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to give up my pride in being my nation's elite. I dismissed it as nonsense from weak-minded soldiers. But part of me felt uneasy. Why are there only workers' sons here? Why not a single party official's child? The questions planted themselves in my heart like seeds. They hadn't sprouted yet, but someday they would. Years passed. I served faithfully. I rose from private to sergeant. My communication skills improved steadily. Within the unit, my abilities were recognized. By the 1,990 seconds, I wanted to become an officer. After nearly 10 years as an NCO, I wanted to take on greater responsibilities. In 1996, my chance came. I was selected for Direct Commission, a program that promoted model NCOs to officer rank. After months of training, I finally received my officer insignia. Not yet 30, and I was a commissioned officer. That night, I was too overcome with emotion to sleep. A worker's son, becoming an officer. If my father were alive, how proud he would have been. Now I'll work even harder and rise to senior officer. Those were my dreams. But right around that time, the world began to collapse. The Arduous March, that hellish period, was just beginning. The Arduous March. That's what North Korea calls the period starting in 1994. The great leader died, the Soviet Union collapsed, and even China turned its back. The economy plummeted. At first, it didn't feel real. We were soldiers. It was unthinkable that the military defending our nation would starve. Surely it won't happen to us, we thought. But that surely became reality faster than we imagined. Starting in the winter of 1995, rations began to shrink. The standard was 800 grams of rice per soldier per day. That dropped to 600, then 400. Eventually, rice was replaced by corn, and even that often didn't come. Some days, all we got was one bowl of food. Soup was just salt water with a few dried radish leaves floating in it. That's what we ate before climbing mountains and training. I was hungry. I woke up at night from hunger. I dreamed of eating. White rice and meat dishes my mother used to make. I dreamed of those, then woke up, and reality was just a cold barracks and an empty stomach. Special Forces was no exception. No, maybe it was worse. Training intensity stayed the same. Orders came down from above to accelerate training with the Arduous March spirit. They gave us no food but demanded we keep training. How does that make sense? Soldiers' bodies began breaking down. Weakness spread like disease. Soldiers collapsed during training. Some companies had 20% of their men classified as too weak to function. The elite warriors who had scaled mountains for our nation were now staggering from malnutrition. I was the same. As a communications officer, I had to travel between frontline units, but my legs felt heavy. Climbing mountains with my radio, my knees trembled. Distances that used to feel like nothing now seemed endless. That's when I understood. A simple truth. Humans need food to survive. Loyalty can't fill an empty stomach. Hungry soldiers changed. Training motivation hit rock bottom. The light disappeared from their eyes. Shouting for the great leader had no power behind it. What good are loyalty oaths on an empty stomach? And then the stealing began. At first, it was small things. Digging up a few potatoes from fields. But it escalated. Raiding civilian storage sheds. Slaughtering pigs. Stealing chickens. The young men who had sworn to be their nation's shield were becoming thieves. Commanders looked away. They couldn't stop it. To stop it, they would have needed to provide food, and there was none. Besides, the commanders' own families were starving too. An officer's salary couldn't buy a bag of rice in those days. I pretended not to see either. I didn't ask where soldiers got their food. If I asked, they would have to answer. If I heard the answer, I would have to punish them. Punish them and face their resentment. Don't punish and watch discipline collapse. Neither was an option. This was the reality of the military that defended our nation. Around that time, there was an NCO in our unit named Dong Hyuk. He handled supply duties. A big guy, good in a fight, but once the Arduous March started, he was assigned to rear support. His job was managing and procuring food for the company. Dong Hyuk was different. When soldiers in other companies survived on one bowl of porridge a day, his company was better off. Somehow, he found food and put it on the soldiers' tables. Sometimes there was even meat. Dong Hyuk's company is different. When you eat, you can train. Without him, our whole company would have starved to death. That's what soldiers said. Dong Hyuk was like a hero to them. Then one day, Dong Hyuk was taken by the Boibu, the secret police. The reason was unbelievable. He had been stealing pigs from local cadres. Not one or two 18 pigs. It turned out Dong Hyuk had specifically targeted pigs belonging to party officials. Everyone was starving, so stealing from ordinary people would have felt wrong. So he stole from cadres who were relatively better off. He was charged with damaging military-civilian relations. Dong Hyuk was interrogated by the Boibu for 40 days. He faced a military tribunal and was about to become a convicted criminal. Then something strange happened. The company soldiers rose up, It's not just Dong-hyuk's fault. He did it because we were starving. Without Dong-hyuk, our company would be full of invalids. Soldiers wrote a petition. The entire company signed it. Even the company commander and platoon leaders joined in. They petitioned the party committee, saying they should all be punished together. In North Korea, this kind of collective action is unthinkable. Defending a criminal and protesting collectively could be seen as challenging the system. Everyone who signed could have been punished, but the soldiers didn't back down. Hunger had overcome fear. Rage exploded against superiors who demanded training without providing food. Saving Dong-hyuk was the pretext, but really it was a protest against their own situation. Where there's oppression, there's resistance. In the end, the case was handled internally. Dong-hyuk avoided heavy punishment, but the nickname Pig Sergeant followed him around after that. Watching this unfold, I thought hard. An army where soldiers have to steal just to eat. An army where trying to punish the thief triggers mass protest. Is this the great leader's army? The iron military defending our nation? Questions arose, but I couldn't voice them. Around the same time, something even more absurd happened. One morning, during battalion inspection, a soldier appeared in formation with something on his back. A pig. He had stolen an entire pig and carried it on his back like a baby, right into morning inspection. The chief of staff made him stand there. Made him stand at inspection with the pig still on his back. The whole battalion laughed. But the laughter was bitter. There was a saying among civilians about a military song verse, look at us, you'll feel safe, the leader's army. People twisted it into, no matter how you look, just an army of thieves. They weren't wrong. Young men who had enlisted to defend their nation had become thieves stealing civilians' pigs, and nothing could be done about it. If they had treated soldiers like precious sons and daughters, would this have happened? The stealing became bolder. One platoon sergeant I knew became a professional. He was from South Hamgyong province. He used skills learned in special forces, training for theft, vertical climbing, rope skills, infiltration techniques. What we had honed in training was being used for crime. One day, he hit the home of a local party secretary. He climbed 5 floors using wooden supports to reach the balcony. He stole a VCR, television, and other valuables, then sold them to market traders. When he was caught and interrogated, he said, "They taught me rope climbing in training. I used it for stealing." It was absurd. Enemy infiltration training being used to break into civilian homes. But what was even more absurd was that at the battalion training staff meeting, someone suggested incorporating his methods into urban combat training. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Commanders were part of the problem too. Officers knew about the soldiers stealing, but looked away. There was a reason. Part of what soldiers stole went to officers' families. An officer's salary couldn't support a family. With wives and children starving, who could maintain principles? Officers started watching their soldiers' moods. Economically dependent on soldiers, their command authority crumbled. This was the reality of the North Korean military. The party preached single-hearted unity and loyalty oaths. But on the ground, hunger and corruption were eating the military from within. Pride in defending the nation was nowhere to be found. Every day was a battle just to survive. I wasn't immune either. As a communications officer, I frequently traveled between Corps and Brigade headquarters. Along the way, I had to use bribes and build connections. That's what it took to get promoted, to get good assignments. I even skimmed food from unit storage and gave it to senior officers. My conscience bothered me, but without doing it, I couldn't survive. When did I become like this? Where did the 17-year-old boy go? The one who enlisted to be a hero. Where did that pure heart go? The one ready to die for my country. Then came one night. I was conducting radio checks during a field exercise. Adjusting frequencies on my radio, I accidentally picked up a strange sound. At first, I thought it was static, but when I listened closely, it was a human voice, a South Korean broadcast. My heart froze. Listening to enemy broadcasts was a serious crime. If caught, I could face a military tribunal and be executed. I should have changed the frequency immediately, but my hand wouldn't move. Music was playing. Soft, beautiful melody. Nothing like anything I had heard in the North. I couldn't tear myself away. How long did I listen? Maybe a few seconds. I snapped out of it and quickly changed the frequency. I looked around. No one seemed to have noticed, but in that brief moment, something cracked inside me. After that night, whenever I had the chance, I secretly searched for that frequency. Of course, it was incredibly dangerous. If caught, it was over. But once a door opens, it can't be closed. The forbidden becomes more tempting. The Southern broadcasts carried all kinds of content. News, music, dramas, people laughing and chatting freely. They talked about politics without hesitation. They openly criticized the president. It was shocking. In North Korea, criticizing the leader means death. Your whole family gets sent to a labor camp. But in the South, people criticize their president openly, and nothing happened. Such a world actually exists. Questions grew inside me. Why do we live like this? Why are soldiers starving? In the great leader's nation, the socialist paradise, why are people collapsing? What if everything we were taught was a lie? The thought wouldn't leave my mind, but I couldn't say it out loud. I couldn't tell anyone. I had to bury it in my heart and endure. Something inside me was slowly crumbling. In 1996, I became a communications officer. Direct commission, a program that promoted model NCOs to officer rank. Out of 30 candidates, I was selected and completed months of training. Before 30, I had my officer insignia, but I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to rise higher, to contribute more to my country from a higher position. At that point, I still had some faith in the system. Hearing South Korean broadcasts had raised questions, but they hadn't turned into complete disillusionment. The position I was aiming for was Political Department Organization Guidance Officer. An organization guidance officer oversees all aspects of soldiers' lives and work. They report to higher organizations and even handle individual personnel evaluations. In simple terms, they hold personnel power within the unit. In a dictatorship like North Korea, personnel power means power. You decide who gets promoted and who gets passed over. Naturally, bribes flow to such positions. Everyone coveted it. I wanted that position. Honestly, it wasn't pure loyalty. The arduous march had taught me reality. Without power or connections, you starve to death. To survive, you need to get close to power. That calculation was there, so I worked hard. I performed my duties faithfully. I tried to build connections at Corps headquarters. Every time I traveled, I made myself known. Whatever superiors demanded, I delivered. I believed my chance would come eventually. 1 year passed. No organization guidance officer assignment. 2 years passed. Still, no news. 3 years passed. Nothing changed. It was strange. Peers less capable than me had been promoted. Juniors who became officers after me had gotten good positions. Why was I the only one stuck in place? I heard my paperwork had been submitted to the personnel department multiple times, but it was rejected every time. When I asked why, there was never a clear answer, just, the time isn't right yet. I was frustrated. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. What had I done wrong? What was I lacking? No matter how hard I thought, I didn't know. Then one day, I accidentally discovered the truth. It was sometime in 1999. I was mobilized to help with administrative work at the Brigade Political Department's General Affairs section. Simple document organization. In the process, I found something unexpected, my personal file. In North Korea, everyone has a personal file. It contains your entire record from birth to present. Most importantly, it contains your songbun, your family background. Records going back 3 generations, parents, grandparents, maternal grandparents. I secretly opened my file. There I found a devastating statement. Maternal grandfather, during the Korean War retreat, participated in security force activities, provided several bundles of dry firewood. My vision went dark. My maternal grandfather. I don't even remember his face. He died when I was young. This grandfather, during the Korean War, had given a few bundles of firewood to retreating South Korean forces. A few bundles of firewood. Because of that, I had been classified as a person with problematic background. In that moment, everything made sense. Why I couldn't get promoted no matter how hard I tried. Why my paperwork was rejected every time. Why people less capable got ahead of me. Songbun, an invisible wall, had been blocking me all along. I hadn't known. My parents never told me. Maybe they didn't know either. Or maybe they knew but couldn't bring themselves to say. In that moment, I remembered my brother. My brother had also completed military service and graduated from university. He tried to get a job at the city prosecutor's office, but he was rejected without explanation. He couldn't understand it. Classmates with lower grades got in. Why was he the only one rejected? Now I understood. My brother had been blocked for the same reason. Our maternal grandfather's security force participation. That record had blocked his path too. Our family had limits set from the start. No matter how hard we struggled, there was a ceiling we couldn't break through. That ceiling was invisible to us, but it definitely existed. I couldn't sleep for days. 14 years. I had enlisted at 17 and served until 31. I had given the most precious years of my life to the military. I had climbed mountains and crossed rivers, trained until my bones nearly broke. I had gritted my teeth through starvation. I had sworn to give my life for the great leader and my country, but my country had never treated me as human. My grandfather giving a few bundles of firewood, something that happened decades ago, before I was even born, and I had to carry that like a crime for my entire life. No matter how hard I tried, I could never escape that label. Is this socialist equality? Is this a nation for the people? Rage surged through me. All the questions I had suppressed burst out at once. The starving soldiers during the arduous march, fellow soldiers becoming thieves, the corrupt commanders, the free world I had heard about on Southern broadcasts. Everything connected. This system was wrong from the start, claiming to be for the people while oppressing them, preaching equality while discriminating based on songbun, demanding loyalty without giving anything in return, a system built on lies and hypocrisy. I had been deceived. For 14 years, there was no longer any reason to stay in this military. Why waste my youth somewhere I could never advance no matter how hard I tried? Why risk my life defending a country that didn't treat me as human? In 2000, I submitted my discharge papers. People tried to dissuade me. Why retire so young? Just hang on a little longer and you can get promoted. But I knew there would be no promotion. For someone with my songbun, no amount of waiting would help. My discharge orders came through. I boarded a train to go home. I looked out the window at the passing scenery. 14 years ago, a 17-year-old boy had traveled this path, with his heart bursting with pride. Now a worn-out 31-year-old man was going back. What did I have in my hands? One winter uniform, one officer's dress uniform, an old field bag, 3,000 won in discharge pay from the brigade finance office. Rice cost 1,500 won per kilogram at the time, barely enough to buy 2 kilograms, and one party membership card. This was the reward for 14 years. One piece of paper, a piece of paper worth less than a few coins, was all I had for my youth. On the train, I took out that party card and stared at it for a long time. For the great leader, for the country. I had shouted those words for 14 years. It all flashed through my mind like a movie, and it all felt empty. I wanted to tear up that party card, but I couldn't. Tearing it would make me a traitor. I didn't have that courage yet. I just put the paper back in my pocket and stared out the window. I arrived home. First homecoming in 14 years, but there was no joy. The hometown I returned to had changed beyond recognition. Factories had stopped. Smokestacks weren't producing smoke. The streets were filled with traders. Black markets had sprung up everywhere. Rations had stopped long ago, so people had to find ways to feed themselves. Still, as a former military officer, I received somewhat better treatment. They gave me a position as party secretary for the city's construction sector, overseeing ideological education and welfare of factory workers. It sounded good. But reality was different. The salary was meaningless. Even with it, I could barely afford a handful of rice. How could I feed a family with that? I needed to get married, but where would wedding costs come from? And the workers I was supposed to look after were in far worse shape. One day, I visited a worker's home. As party secretary, I was ordered to assess the living conditions of frontline workers. I knocked on a door. The moment I stepped inside, I was speechless. It was a rundown room. The ceiling had holes. Cold air seeped through. In the corner sat 2 children, a girl who looked about 7 and a boy around 4. Both were skeletal. On one side of the room lay a pregnant woman. Her belly was very large. She looked close to full term, but her face was gaunt. Her eyes had no life. Her husband had left 2 days ago to find food. He hadn't returned. The children looked up at me. I will never forget those eyes. Eyes begging to be saved. They weren't asking for something. They were silently pleading, "Help us survive." I couldn't do anything. I had no money in my pocket. Even if I had, there was nothing to buy. What good was being a party secretary? Before starving children, I was powerless. I turned away. Walking home, I collapsed on the roadside. I looked up at the sky. Tears came. Rage or sorrow, I couldn't tell what I was feeling. Is this the socialist paradise? Is this a nation for the people? Children are starving, pregnant women collapsing, husbands wandering in search of food, and the party demands loyalty and praises the great leader. It was all lies, every bit of it. I couldn't stay in that position anymore. I abandoned the party secretary job. I didn't need a token salary and hollow authority. To survive, I had to do business. From then on, I became a completely different person. The soldier who would die for his country was gone. Only a man struggling to survive remained. Loyalty to the system had evaporated. Only rage and disillusionment were left. But I didn't know then. The real hell hadn't started yet. Greater trials awaited me. And those trials would eventually lead me to the Tumen River. After abandoning my party secretary position, I became a trader. I started small, buying things at one market and selling them at another. Profit margins were thin, but at least I wasn't starving. Gradually, I learned the trade, where to buy cheap, where to sell high. Then a bigger opportunity came. I got a job with a trading company under the Ministry of People's Security. My background as a military officer helped. It wasn't anything grand, trading with Chinese merchants and bringing goods across the border. I sold used cars too. I brokered all kinds of goods coming from China. It straddled the line between legal and illegal. But in those days, truly legal business didn't exist in North Korea. To survive, you had to overlook certain things. Money started coming in. I made more in 1 year of trading than 14 years in the military. I could support my family. The days of starvation seemed like a distant lie. And around that time, I first encountered South Korean videos. They came through a Chinese merchant. Videotapes, South Korean dramas, he said. I was curious. I remembered the southern broadcasts I had secretly listened to in the military. Back then it was just sound. Now I could see it. I watched in secret at night. I locked the door, drew the curtains, turned the volume as low as possible. Getting caught would mean serious trouble. My heart pounded, but curiosity won. The moment the screen lit up, shock hit me. The South Korea on screen was nothing like I had imagined. Not people starving and exploited as we had been taught. Clean streets, gleaming buildings, cars everywhere, people wearing nice clothes, eating abundant food. This is the South Korea we were told was our enemy? People in the drama talked about love. They laughed, cried, fought, reconciled. There was no political propaganda or leader worship, just ordinary people living ordinary lives. That was even more shocking. North Korean dramas always have a message. The great leader's grace, party guidance, socialist superiority, that's always in there. But South Korean dramas had none of that. People just freely told their own stories. A world like this exists. I watched through the night. I couldn't look away. I didn't notice dawn breaking. Watching those videos, my eyes opened completely. The questions from my military days, the rage at being blocked by Songbun, the disillusionment at starving citizens, It all connected. This system is a lie. We've been deceived our whole lives. South Korean videos were dangerous contraband. Getting caught distributing them was a major crime. You could be sent to a political prison camp. Your entire family could be implicated. But I started selling them. They made money. People wanted them. Once someone watched, they wanted more. Word spread quietly but quickly. Demand grew. I knew it was dangerous. But money was coming in, so I couldn't stop. And honestly, it wasn't just about money. Part of me wanted to show people the truth, that what we learned was lies, that another world exists. Of course, I didn't think of it that grandly. It was just business. But in effect, I was walking a dangerous tightrope, and finally, I fell off. It was November 2002. That day, I was doing business as usual. Nothing seemed wrong. Business was actually going well. I had saved some money, and life was stabilizing. Then suddenly, Boebu agents burst into my home. Someone knocked on the door. That was strange, no one usually visited. I opened it, and 3 men in dark clothes stood there. The moment I saw their eyes, I knew, instinctively, it's over. Comrade Park Sung-ho, you need to come with us. I couldn't resist. Once the Boebu takes you, it's over. Running would only make the charges worse. My family would suffer. My mother came running out. What is this? What did my son do wrong? A Boebu agent pushed her away. Step back. Interfere, and you come too. My mother's cries echoed behind me. I wanted to look back, but couldn't. I was dragged away, handcuffed, thrown into a car. Through the window, I saw my mother, collapsed on the ground, weeping. That image is seared into my mind. I can never forget it. I arrived at Boebu headquarters. I was thrown into a basement cell, a concrete room without a single window, cold and damp. 1 weak light bulb flickered. I lost track of time. I couldn't tell day from night. Then interrogation began. 2 charges: violation of foreign currency laws, distribution of South Korean videos, dealing with Chinese merchants, and distributing South Korean content. They got me on both. Someone had reported me. In business, you make competitors and enemies. I couldn't know who, but someone had sold me out. The interrogator asked, "Where did you get the South Korean videos? Who did you sell them to? Who are your accomplices? Who's behind this?" I held out. If I talked, others would be dragged in. The Chinese merchant who supplied me, the colleagues I worked with, the people who bought videos. They would all be implicated. This wasn't about just me getting caught, but they didn't give up. 40 days. That hellish time lasted 40 days. The memories from that Boebu cell still haunt my nightmares. I can't share the details. It would be painful for you to hear, and I don't want to relive it. I'll just say this. They didn't treat me as human. Interrogation continued every day. They asked the same questions hundreds of times. If I didn't answer, there were consequences. They didn't let me sleep. Days without rest. When my eyelids grew heavy, they threw cold water on me. They barely fed me. Some days, just 1 ball of rice. Water was rationed. It was winter. In weather dropping below -20 Celsius, they left me in thin clothes. No heating, of course. My whole body froze. My teeth chattered. I lost feeling in my fingers and toes. At dawn, they dragged me outside. I was loaded onto a motorcycle and taken around from place to place. To identify accomplices, they said. Being driven in thin clothes in that cold was agony itself. Wind cut like blades. Still, I endured. I thought I would die, but didn't. I wanted to give up, but didn't. I don't know what kept me going. Maybe stubbornness, maybe survival instinct. At some point, I went numb. When pain passes a certain threshold, you stop feeling it. My body was there, but my mind was somewhere far away, like drifting through a dream. The line between reality and hallucination blurred. That's how I survived each day. What they wanted was accomplices. They thought I wasn't working alone. They suspected an organization behind me. A South Korean video distribution ring, a spy network, anti-state elements. They believed something existed. They probably wanted to turn it into a bigger case and claim credit, but I never talked. Truth was, there was no organization, just business. I bought things that made money and sold them, but they didn't believe me. They kept insisting something must be there. After 40 days, they seemed to give up. Maybe they decided there was nothing more to extract, or maybe a bigger case came along and shifted their attention. Then one day, I received unexpected news. Parole. I couldn't believe it. Parole? Really? Why were they releasing me? What was their game? I was suspicious but didn't ask. Asking might make them change their minds. I signed whatever papers they put in front of me and walked out the door. The cell door opened. I stepped outside. Sunlight blinded me. First sky I'd seen in 40 days. My eyes stung. I couldn't adjust. I stood there squinting for a long time. My legs had no strength. I staggered, but I walked, one step at a time, toward home. When I arrived home, my mother came running out. She saw me and collapsed on the spot. She couldn't speak for a long time. Then she burst into tears. "Oh, my child! My child!" I fell into her arms. I cried too, like a child, a 34-year-old man sobbing in his mother's arms. She took me to my room. She brought warm water, made me food. First real meal in 40 days. Tears fell into my rice. For days, I stayed in bed. My body was wrecked. Everything hurt. I had a fever too. Mother nursed me through the nights. She put wet cloths on my forehead, made porridge, fed me. Her hands were so warm, but I knew it wasn't over. Parole didn't mean freedom. The Boweeboo kept watching me. Wherever I went, someone was observing. Strangers loitered near my house. When I went out, I could sense someone following. The fear of being taken again never left. I might be dragged away any moment. Every knock on the door made my heart stop. I couldn't do business either. No one wanted to deal with someone on the Boweeboo's bad list. Everyone avoided me. They looked away when I spoke. Being close to me meant danger for them, too. I understood. I didn't blame them. I would have done the same. While recovering at home, I thought, can I keep living here? Even if I tried business again, it wouldn't be like before. Who trades with someone under Boweeboo surveillance? And if I got caught again, that would truly be the end. This time, I got lucky. Next time, I wouldn't. And more than anything, I no longer wanted to live in this land. The military had betrayed me after 14 years. Songbun had blocked my ceiling. Business to survive had landed me in prison. In this country, no matter how hard people like me struggle, we can never live like humans. I have to leave. That thought started faint, then grew stronger. But it wasn't an easy decision. Defection. That meant risking death. Get caught crossing the border and you're shot. Border guards shoot defectors on sight. Even if you cross, getting caught in China means repatriation. Repatriation means a political prison camp. Almost no one comes out alive. Your family gets implicated too. If I escaped alone, my remaining family would suffer. In North Korea, families of defectors are punished. Guilt by association. My mother, brother, younger sibling. Thinking about what would happen to them stopped me in my tracks. My mother's face came to mind. When I was dragged out of the Boweeboo, she had collapsed on the ground crying. How much she must have agonized while waiting those 40 days. Leave her behind? Never see her again? It felt like my heart was being torn apart. I spent sleepless nights. Should I go or stay? Can I do it? Can I leave my mother? If I go, can I succeed? What if I fail? What happens to my family? Thoughts chased thoughts. I couldn't reach a conclusion. Then one day, my mother called me. It was after dinner. She told me to come to her room. When I entered, she spoke. "Sung-ho, do you think I don't know what you're thinking?" My heart stopped. "What do you mean, Mother? Don't hide it. A mother's eyes can't be fooled." She looked at me directly. Under that gaze, I couldn't hide anything. "You're planning to leave, aren't you?" I couldn't answer. I lowered my head. Silence stretched out. Mother sighed. A deep, long sigh. Then she said this, "Go." And quote, I looked up. I looked at her. Tears were welling in her eyes. "Go and live like a human being. Stay here and you'll die. If they take you again, you won't come back. I can't watch that happen. Mother, don't worry about me. I'm old. What's going to happen to me? You just need to survive." She took my hand. Rough, dry hands. Hands that had worked hard her whole life. "Just let me know you're alive. That's all I ask. Understand?" I knelt before her. I bowed deeply. Tears poured out. "Mother, forgive this unfilial son." She pulled me into her arms. "Don't be foolish. What did you do wrong? It's this country that's wrong." We held each other and cried for a long time. That was my last conversation with my mother. December 2003. I made my decision. I would leave. I couldn't prepare long. The longer it took, the higher the chance of getting caught. The Boweeboo was watching. I had to move quietly, quickly. I found out about defection routes. Through people I had met during my trading days, I gathered information: where to go, who to meet, how much money it would take. Carefully, secretly, I asked around. They said the Tumen Riverside was better, narrower than the Yalu, and it freezes in winter so you can walk across. Still dangerous, of course. Border guards patrol, watchtowers exist, and getting caught means execution, but it was the only way. I had some money, what was left from my trading days. I gathered it up. The night before I left arrived. I stood in front of my mother's door. I wanted to open it and go in, to hold her and say goodbye properly. "Mother, I'm leaving. We'll meet again alive. Stay healthy." I wanted to say those words, but I couldn't. If she knew, she might stop me. If she said no, don't go, I wouldn't be able to leave. My heart would waver in front of her. And more importantly, it would cause problems later. The Boweeboo would interrogate her. Did she know her son was defecting? Did she know and not report him? If she truly didn't know, she might avoid implication. I stood at the door. I stood there for a long time. Inside, I could sense her presence, maybe sleeping, maybe awake. I knelt down. I bowed silently, deeply, forehead touching the floor. "Mother, your unfilial son is leaving. Please stay healthy. I will see you again, alive. In the next life, I will be a good son." I said those words in my heart. Tears dropped onto the floor. I raised my head. I looked at the door. I could open it and see her, but I couldn't. If I did, I couldn't leave. I gritted my teeth. I stood up. I turned around. I took one step. That one step felt like 1,000 pounds. 2 steps. 3 steps. Further and further from her door. I walked out the front gate. I didn't look back. If I looked back, I might turn around. I walked into the darkness. One December day in 2003, at dawn, I left home. Just one bag. A few clothes, some money, a little dried food. That was all. My destination was the Tumen River. Getting to the border wasn't easy either. I had to avoid checkpoints. Traveling to another region without a travel permit was illegal. I hid during the day and moved only at night. It took several days. I went hungry, nearly froze. I walked mountain paths where no one traveled. My feet blistered, but I couldn't stop. If I stop, I die. If I turn back, I die. The only way to live is forward. I repeated those words as I walked. Finally, the Tumen River came into view, somewhere in North Hamgyong Province. I can't say the exact location. Others may still use that route to defect. When I first saw the river, I stood staring for a long time. It was narrower than I expected. Still a river, of course. The far bank seemed impossibly distant. That's China over there. If I can just get there, I'm out of North Korea. It was winter, so the river was frozen. That was fortunate. Frozen means I can walk across. If it were thawed, I would have to swim, and in this cold, entering the water means death from hypothermia. But frozen doesn't mean safe. Border guards patrol. Watchtowers are positioned along the way. Guards shoot defectors on sight. No consequences, it's even considered meritorious. And there are thin spots in the ice. It might look solid, but be hollow underneath. Step wrong and you fall through and drown. In the dark, you can't tell the difference. I waited for the darkest hour. When night deepened, I went down to the riverbank. My heart pounded wildly. My ears strained. Is there a footstep somewhere? A gunshot? Every nerve was on edge. I took my first step onto the ice. Creak. The sound made my heart stop. I froze. I looked around. Nothing moved. I walked again, slowly, carefully, one step at a time. I wanted to run. I wanted to reach the other side as fast as possible, but I couldn't run. Running makes noise. Noise gets you caught. Walking on ice, many thoughts raced through me. What if I die here? What if I get shot? What if the ice breaks? But stronger than those thoughts was one thing. I must live. I must cross. I must find freedom. That thought kept my feet moving. When I was about halfway across, in the distance, I saw a light. Border Patrol. My heart stopped. I dropped flat onto the ice. I pressed myself as low as possible. I held my breath. In dark clothes, I hoped I wouldn't be visible in the darkness. The light moved slowly. It seemed to be coming my way. I'm dead. The thought flashed through me. Is this the end? Do I get shot and die here? My mother's face appeared in my mind, bowing at her door. Your unfilial son is leaving, Mother. I made that farewell and came, and now I die here? How grief-stricken she would be. No, I can't die here. I gritted my teeth, but there was nothing I could do. I just lay there, holding my breath. Time felt eternal. 1 minute felt like an hour. Sweat ran down my back. Cold as it was, I was sweating. Then the light turned direction. It moved away. They hadn't seen me. I survived. Relief flooded through me, but I couldn't relax. I was only halfway. I got up and walked again, faster, but still quiet. How much further did I walk? Suddenly, the ground under my feet felt different. Not ice, dirt, Chinese soil. I had crossed. I couldn't believe it. Had I really made it? Was this a dream? I looked back. In the darkness, the Tumen River was faintly visible, the ice I had just crossed. Beyond it, North Korean land was dimly visible. My knees buckled. I collapsed onto the snow. Tears streamed down. I couldn't cry out loud, so only my shoulders shook. I made it. I crossed. I survived. But at the same time, sadness flooded in. My mother is on the other side of that river. My brother and sibling are there. The land where I was born and raised. Everything from my 35 years is over there. Will I ever see it again? Will I see my mother again? I didn't know. Maybe never. That thought made my heart feel like it was caving in. But this wasn't the time to cry. China wasn't safe either. Getting caught by Chinese police means repatriation. Repatriation means death. The road ahead was still long. I wiped my tears. I stood up. I walked into the darkness. The year in China was one long escape. There were people who sheltered defectors. Missionaries sent from South Korean churches, defector support organizations. With their help, I hid. The first person I met was a Korean Chinese woman. After crossing, I wandered until I reached a village. I had information that someone there helped defectors. I knocked on the door, heart pounding. What if she reports me to the police? Can I trust her? The door opened, and a middle-aged woman appeared. She looked me up and down, then said, "Come in. You'll freeze to death out there." I went into a warm room. I drank hot soup. That one bowl was the most delicious thing I had ever tasted. She sheltered me until I stabilized. I rested for several days and recovered my strength. Then she guided me to the next safe house. That's how I moved from place to place. But I couldn't stay anywhere long. Chinese police crackdowns were intense. Catching defectors brings rewards, so they search hard. A tip means immediate deployment. Sheltering defectors is also punished. Fines, even detention. Staying too long puts the host at risk. I had to move constantly. A few days here, then somewhere else again. Settling was impossible. I couldn't go out during the day. I don't speak Chinese. If I talk, they'll know. Even without talking, my behavior gives away that I'm an outsider. A random police check and it's over. I have no ID. I stayed in rooms. I didn't go near windows, in case someone might see. Every knock on the door made my heart stop. Police or not, the tension never ended. Hiding was mentally exhausting. Constant anxiety consumed me. The fear of getting caught any moment. The terror of repatriation. The despair of knowing repatriation means death. It followed me 24 hours a day. At night, I had nightmares. Dreams of being chased by police. Dreams of being repatriated. Dreams of being back in the Bowibu cell. I would wake up drenched in sweat and sit dazed for a long time. Where am I? Was I caught? Am I still safe? My mind was wearing down. Still, there was hope. The people sheltering me told me, there's a way to get to South Korea, a route through Southeast Asia. If you make it there, South Korean embassies will take you in. South Korea. Those words lit a fire in my heart. A land of freedom, a place to live like a human. The world I had heard on military broadcasts, seen in those videos, that world could become reality. Just get there. Just hold on until then. That hope kept me going. Among my days in China, some moments remain vivid. Once, while I was hiding, police raided the house. Suddenly, there was knocking. The woman sheltering me gestured to me. Hide. I quickly climbed into a wardrobe. I crouched inside, not daring to breathe. The door opened, and men's voices came in. Chinese? So, I didn't understand, but I could feel the tension. The woman answered calmly. She seemed to be handling it well. Footsteps moved through the house. They came closer, stopped in front of the wardrobe. My heart was about to explode. If they open it, it's over. I'm caught, repatriated, dead. Time froze. Then the footsteps moved away. I heard the door close. The police had left. A while later, the wardrobe door opened. The woman smiled and said, It's okay, they're gone. Only then could I exhale. Cold sweat soaked my entire body. Another time, I nearly got caught during a checkpoint while traveling. I was moving from one city to another. I had boarded a bus with a missionary. I was staring tensely out the window. Suddenly, the bus stopped. A checkpoint. Police boarded the bus. They began checking IDs, one by one. I had no ID. If they reach me, it's over. The missionary held my hand. Don't tremble, she seemed to be saying, but I couldn't stop shaking. Police came closer. One row ahead. My heart pounded wildly. Right in front of me. I couldn't breathe. Then suddenly, there was commotion at the back of the bus. Someone shouting. The police went to check. Some kind of incident, apparently. Shortly after, the bus started moving again. The checkpoint was cut short. I don't know what happened at the back. Maybe God was helping me, the missionary said. God protected you. I wasn't religious, but in that moment, it really felt like someone was watching over me. I can never forget the kindness of the people I met while hiding. Helping defectors was dangerous. There was no profit in it. It was a losing proposition. They gave us their own food, put their own homes at risk to shelter us. Once, I asked why they did it. One missionary answered, Because we're human. Humans helping humans is natural. Those words struck my heart. I had never learned that in North Korea. For the party, for the leader, that's all I learned. The simple truth that humans help humans. I had never known it. Thanks to those people, I survived. A debt I can never repay. I endured a year like that. Finally, the chance came to reach a third country. Through a broker, a route to Southeast Asia opened up. Dangerous, but worth trying. Another life-or-death journey began. I can't share the exact route. People may still be using it to defect. If I reveal details, it could harm them. Please understand. I'll just say this. I walked and walked, crossed border after border, took buses, trucks, boats. I wandered through unfamiliar lands. I communicated through gestures where words didn't work. I nearly got caught at times. I went hungry. Money ran out, and I felt hopeless. I wanted to give up, but I had come too far to quit. I had a promise to my mother, to send word that I'm alive. I had to keep that promise. Finally, I reached a South Korean embassy, in some city in a third country. When I stood in front of that embassy, my legs trembled. Is it really over? Did I really survive? I knocked on the door. A staff member came out. I managed to say, "I'm from North Korea. I want to go to South Korea." Saying those words, tears came. The staff member told me to come inside. The moment I stepped through that door, all my strength drained away. My knees buckled. I collapsed. I survived. It's over. I made it. All those feelings hit at once. September 2004. I arrived at Incheon Airport. Coming through arrivals, 3 men greeted me. Settlement support workers and a fellow defector who had arrived before me. They walked toward me. One extended his hand. I took it. Then he pulled me into an embrace. It was warm. The pat on my back felt genuine. "You've been through so much. It's okay now." Those words broke me. In 35 years, I had never received such a welcome. 14 years in the military, 3 hard years in civilian life, 1 year on the run. In all that time, no one had ever embraced me like this. Stepping outside the airport, the September sun was blinding. The sky was high and blue. Clean air filled my lungs. The same sky, why does it feel so different? Freedom. So this is freedom. Something burst from deep in my chest. Joy or sorrow, I couldn't tell. I survived. But it wasn't all joy. Settlement was hard. New country, new society, new culture. Everything was foreign. The language was Korean, but the accent was different. I didn't know computers, credit cards, how to ride the subway. Everything I learned in North Korea was useless here. 14 years of military skills, what I learned trading, none of it mattered in this society. I had to learn everything from scratch. I was lonely. No family, no friends, no one I knew in this place. I was alone. Night after night, nightmares came. The cold Bowibu cell floor. The terror of walking on Tumen ice. The tension of hiding in China. They appeared in my dreams. I would wake soaked in sweat and sit dazed for a long time. Most of all, thoughts of my family tormented me. What happened to my mother? After I left, what pain did she endure? The Bowibu must have interrogated her. Where did your son go? Did you know? She would have said she didn't know. She truly didn't. I hadn't told her when I was leaving or where I was going. Still, she must have been implicated. Branded as a defector's family. Watched, discriminated against, suffering, the guilt of being the only survivor. It crushed me, but I didn't give up. I had a promise to my mother, to send word that I'm alive, to live like a human being. I studied hard, learned computers, learned to drive, learned how to live in this society. I found work. I worked diligently. Slowly, I adapted. Now I live as a proud citizen of South Korea. I can walk the streets with my head held high. I can say what I want. No one discriminates against me for my songbun. This is living like a human being. In North Korea, I didn't know. There was nothing to compare to. But now I know how a person should live, what freedom means. Sometimes people ask me, "Do you miss North Korea?" Sometimes I do. I miss the mountains and rivers of home, the fields where I played as a child, the landscape of Yongbyon. Most of all, I miss my family. I want to see my mother. I want to hear her voice. Is she still alive? Is she healthy? I have no way to know. No way to send word. That night bowing at her door comes back to me. "Mother, your unfilial son is leaving. We will meet again, alive." I made that promise. I haven't kept it yet, but I don't miss that system. A system that doesn't treat people as human. A system that discriminates based on songbun. A system that ignores starving citizens to build nuclear weapons. I will never miss that. I believe reunification will come someday. 70 years of division, but we won't be separated forever. Someday, we will become one again. I wait for that day. When it comes, I will go to my hometown. I will walk on Yongbyon soil again. I will walk through the village where I was born and raised, and I will visit my mother's grave. If she has passed, I will kneel before her grave. I will bow deeply. Mother, your unfilial son has come. I tried to keep my promise, but I was too late. Please forgive me. Now we meet in a free land. That's what I will say. If she is still alive, I will run to her and hold her. Mother, I'm alive. I kept my promise. Now live in peace. I will be a good son to you. That's what I will say. I wait for that day. Thank you for listening to my story. A 17-year-old boy with dreams who enlisted in special forces, felt betrayal, and eventually fled his country. That long journey I have shared with you. My story isn't special. Right now, countless defectors are going through similar experiences. Right now, people are starving in North Korea. Right now, young people are giving up their dreams because of Songbun. Right now, people are risking their lives crossing borders in search of freedom. Please remember them. The footsteps crossing the cold Tumen River, the anguish of hiding in China, the tears of leaving family behind. And please hope with me that reunification comes soon, the day freedom comes to the North, the day separated families reunite, the day starvation and oppression disappear. For that day, I live on today. Your attention gives us strength. Thank you.